During the course of my 27 years of service as a judge, I became aware of a very unique aspect of Missouri's history, or more specifically, St. Louis's history. It involves a series of lawsuits that were filed by slaves in the 57 years before the Civil War, where they went to court, here in our courts here in St. Louis, and sued for their civil right to freedom. The state of Missouri at that time had a rule of law that said, once free, always free. The way that was being interpreted in Missouri was that if a slave was taken by the slave master to a state that was a free state, that slave became free at that moment. If the slave master then brought the slave back to the state of Missouri, under Missouri law, that slave had the right to sue for the civil right of freedom, because once they became free in another state, they were always free thereafter. These lawsuits are referred to today as the freedom suits. Very unique to our history because we were one of the few courts in the United States, and some say the only court, where a slave could go to court and sue the slave master for the right to freedom. These cases were very interesting and very unique to St. Louis, in that St. Louis judges, who at the time were elected, undertook to protect these rights for the slaves who were entitled to their freedom. So much so that if a slave filed a lawsuit and there was any concern of retaliation, the courts would issue orders telling the slave master, don't touch that slave in any way until the lawsuit is done. Now, that raises some of the very high risk that these slaves were facing in filing these lawsuits. Because if they lost, obviously they were subject to horrible retaliation. Not only would there be beatings, perhaps even killings, slaves would also be sold to owners in Mississippi or Louisiana, which were states that were known to have a history of true cruelty, intense cruelty to slaves. This is where the phrase being sold down the river came from. It's literally the slaves who were retaliated against by the slave masters were sold down the river to horrible circumstances in Mississippi or Louisiana. That's why these slaves are heroes. They're heroes in the sense that they were the first civil rights litigants in our nation's history. Their lawyers were the first civil rights lawyers who went to court and sued under Missouri's civil law for their civil right to freedom. And it is incredible that here in the state of Missouri, this was a state that actually had an open door even to what was considered the lowest person in the country, the American slave. It is because of the heroic and incredible and historical work of the slaves who went to court and fought for their freedom, and the unique aspect that our judges and our lawyers gave honor to this civil right, that we want to honor all of them and honor that unique aspect of St. Louis history by having the Freedom Suits Memorial, a memorial that actually allows citizens to see and hear and learn about this incredible aspect of our history. This city was without a doubt one of the first in freedom for this country, and it is something of which I am very, very proud to be a successor to by way of being a successor judge. Now, in order to bring the memorial to reality, we had to first find an appropriate artist. To do this, we did really a national search. We put it out nationally that we were looking for artists to come in and give us proposals for this Freedom Suits Memorial. We found one such artist, a gentleman by the way of Preston Jackson, who actually has public artwork all across the country and has a national reputation for doing high quality public artwork, particularly public art that memorializes historical events in the history of American slave descendants. He submitted a proposal that, quite frankly, it was love at first sight. His memorial, when done, not only has incredible artistic uniqueness, or just as a work of art, it's beautiful, but when you look at it, you can actually, without reading a word, see the story, and get a sense of what the freedom suits were really about. So you have a piece of art that tells a story on its own, as well as having incredible beauty for those who look at it. So it was easy to award it to him. When he came and interviewed with us, it was clear that this was a personal passion for him. That once he saw our proposal, he had actually researched the Freedom Suits Memorial himself and realized that this was going to be a mission for him, that he as an artist wanted to express his views as an American slave descendant, what it meant to him that this had been going on. And that's what he did. He especially was interested in learning that the Freedom Suits were in fact one of the major, some would suggest the major tipping point that led to the Civil War. He made me go back and do some of my own research, and I learned that after the Dred Scott decision, it's when Lincoln realized that there was no other way out for the nation but war. See, in the Dred Scott decision, Chief Supreme Court Justice Taney, Roger Taney, wrote an opinion that essentially brought every superstitious, every cultural false fact that was ever said about black people and used it as justification in the Supreme Court decision to reach a ruling that as a matter of appropriate civil law, the white man did not have to respect any rights of the black man of any kind. Now keep in mind this is a Supreme Court decision. The language of the decision made it clear that where the Supreme Court was going was that it was seeking to constitutionalize the right to own slaves, much like the Constitution has protection for the right to own guns. They were going to basically write an opinion that would not allow the states of New York, Illinois, or any other state to ban slavery. That owning a slave would become a constitutional right of every white American. That's where the court was going. And Lincoln made an interesting statement regarding the Dred Scott decision. He says he went to bed one evening knowing that his home state of Illinois is a free state, and woke up realizing that it could be a slave state because of that decision. And that's what led him to make the comment that no nation can survive half free, half slave. And it's because of those historical facts that we know right here in St. Louis, what we were doing, which was the right side of history, pushed this nation towards civil war to correct those who wanted to take us to the wrong side of history. I think it's very important for people to not only view this memorial when it's up, but understand why it's there, because it is also a symbol of access to the courts for all. You can look at that symbol, say you're a young lawyer on your way to court for the first time. You can look at that symbol and know that our system of justice stands for the proposition that even the lowest of us has the right to go into court and assert their civil rights, and the law will give it to them if they're in the right. And that's why it's important. Access to justice is one of the most important things that holds our country together. It prevents us from fighting in the streets. It allows us a way to resolve our differences legally, properly, and gives those who feel that their civil rights have been denied a place to go to protect those rights and enforce those rights. That is the symbolism of the Freedom Suits Memorial. Everybody has a right to their freedom suit.